talked a few years ago about how Destiny made me appreciate MMO mechanics that I had never had the chance to experience, mainly because they were usually hidden behind elves and flails and the like. The Division manages to take these mechanics and do some really incredible things with them. On top of a fantastically realised version of a devastated New York and Ubisoft's usual high level of UI design, which appeals to me more than it probably should, it's the most fun I've had in co-op all year. Callum and I played through the whole thing together, and the high level encounters really need both of you to be on point and aware of each other to get through them. The real jewel in the crown for me is the Dark Zone. It's rare that the emotional constructs that developers pitch at things like E3 actually end up applying to the final game. But in this case, the tension of rolling up on our human team and playing the intricate dance of gestures that give away if they're thinking of just plain murdering you or letting you pass unhindered is still tense even 30 to 40 hours into the game. Ubisoft have done a great job in supporting the game too. Both the expansion packs have justified the cost of the season pass already, with one more still coming. Underground provided some great replayable content for gathering loot, and Survival takes the best parts of the Dark Zone and adds a revamped version of the map with some superb resource collection and progression mechanics. The Division's a great accomplishment and a natural evolution of the Ubisoft formula that they've been perfecting over the past few years. On top of some fantastic visuals, it's been some of the best and most intensive co-op fun I've had in a long time. If Ubisoft were to announce a new season of content for the game tomorrow, I will be right there in the queue waiting for it.
Welcome, sir.
I've never been a huge fan of the Hitman franchise up till now. The difficulty curve was always prohibitive, and a restrictive save system actively stopped me from exploring the space and experiment with the tools that you're providing. This new iteration has solved those problems and has achieved what I feel the series has been aiming for a long time. A real sandbox where you can achieve your objectives in a number of darkly humorous ways. The opportunities provide a tutorial into the areas and items in each level, which is vital for attempting the frankly insane high level challenges that it presents. The old school Hitman fans are well served with the silent assassin objectives, with the most heavy of restrictions placed on players to pull off the perfect hit and walk away completely unscathed. I'm totally fine saying that they're way beyond what my meagre skills would have accomplished. They're just not there for me. I think it's important that we give Hitman a lot of credit for really nailing the episodic rollout of a game, something that's proven very difficult for a number of developers. The regular release of new levels over the year, combined with time-limited elusive targets filling in the gaps between them. They even use existing levels as the base for completely new missions and targets, involving everything from an action movie shoot to literally Santa Claus running through a Paris mansion delivering presents. This installment of the franchise has really turned me around on it, and it's managed it by embracing the fun aspects of what it's been doing for years, while still providing the challenge for those people who want to go down that road. For me, I'm perfectly happy to pick away the easier stuff, especially if it involves me throwing fire axes and fire extinguishers at people. I've been at it for a while now, and that shit still has not gotten old. There was a new Doom game this year, and it was excellent. Just let that sink in for a second. I didn't even really realise what made Doom until this iteration. The sheer speed of the game doesn't come from the lead character running at 120 miles an hour anymore. It instead forces you to jump from hellbeast to hellbeast, literally ripping health and ammo out of them. It keeps the frantic pace that you know and love while still managing to feel fresh. For a game that trades in overkill violence and ridiculous visuals, it has some of the smartest bits of design in any game this year. It's also successful at something that I didn't think was possible. It infuses lore into the main character. We talk on this site a lot about dumb games in the most positive light possible. Watching a hulking slab of dude be treated as a god is funny enough. Seeing him rip apart a demon literally in half is funnier still. But watching a robot doctor tell this god man to be careful with the delicate machinery, and then watching him put his foot directly through said machinery is exactly the kind of dumb that we look for around here. The added punch to this game was that it basically came out of nowhere. A vaguely promising E3 demo was undercut by a frankly boring multiplayer test that dropped the game off a lot of people's radars. What happened instead was a moment that happens all too rarely in games these days, and doubly so for titles from a AAA publisher like Bethesda. It spread through word of mouth. I'd basically dismissed the game, and it took someone saying to my face in the most serious of tones, "No, actually, you should play Doom." The chances of this outcome seemed basically nil when the game was announced, but here I am talking about it right in the middle of my personal top 5 and having it sit right at the top of our official site list. Doom is an incredible game and manages to be humble to its origins while allowing for innovation that propels it far beyond what could have been a very, very disappointing update to a hallowed series. Fury is a fantastic example of how a very small mechanical change to a style of game that I have no interest in can totally change my opinion on it. A twitchy boss rush action game with a heavy reliance on parrying, dodges and overall timing is just not my thing. Fury, however, gives you the thing that all those other games like this lack: room to learn. Rather than giving you the space of a single health bar to learn the patterns and tells of a particular boss, you have 3 attempts at each pattern before you're sent back to zero. It's a small and subtle change, but it's one of the main reasons that I kept with Fury for as long as I did. It has a visual language that's subtle but consistent throughout. If a projectile is purple, it means you can parry it to bounce it back. If it's yellow and you can turn your gun on it, then it emits a sliver of life that will keep you going a little bit longer. My second time through, with my knowledge of the lexicon it had taught me, even more viable tactics start to present themselves that I'd never really considered. There are some intense risk-reward moments where surrendering your ability to parry for just long enough to charge your sword for one powerful attack provided a number of shouts of exclamation that I'm pretty sure could be heard from the end of my street. It gives me a little more appreciation for people who are all in on the Dark Souls franchise and others in the genre. The rush that comes from finally taking down a boss that's been eluding you for days, or in some of the more extreme cases weeks, is one of the most fulfilling gaming experiences I had this year. On top of all the gameplay accomplishment, it's a game with a soundtrack that I could not stop listening to all year, and it knows how to use it too. Each track builds as Ryder makes his way towards the next arena, taking in the surroundings as listening to your companion detail the particular sins this next boss is trying to absolve you of. Then, once the combat starts, and as the phases move from one to the next, each track builds and builds, adding to the already intensive fight that's taking place. I love it when games surprise me, and Fury was just that. It's a game that wants to do one thing and does it exceptionally well, with a deep set of mechanics that you continue to learn throughout when you're not appreciating the stages or being floored by the music behind it all. As I've been saying all year, you really, really should be playing Fury. Mankind Divided doesn't want to aspire to be much more than being an expansion and enhancement of the last game. In terms of gameplay, it's more content in the framework set up by all of the previous games, and yet even with all that, it's sitting here at the top of my list. That should really say something about the quality of what's here. Cyberpunk's nothing new, and it's been done a lot over the past few years. Deus Ex is something else though. It's a coherent view of the future with a degree of design that's just above anything else I've experienced in video games. There are few games that can hold a torch to Mankind Divided and create a world that feels like it's been designed to be lived in. It takes a city that's recognisable and applies a layer of technology that feels like the natural evolution of the place. On top of that, the products, the clothes, the architecture, they all feel like they've been designed by actual people with the intention that they're used rather than simply being backdrop. There are some legitimate complaints about the story of the game, and to be fair, it's not as strong as it could be. The promotion around the game was also a little tone deaf at points. The highlight here, however, is the side stories that the game fills its incredibly realised world with. There's some that involve a rogue AI talking to Jensen through a hacked ad sign. You help an underground news publication dig up some dirt on the National News Organisation. There are even opportunities for Detective Jensen to actually do some police work and investigate and solve a murder. The gameplay is just as strong and varied as it's ever been. As cliche as it is at this point, every encounter genuinely does have multiple ways of moving through it. There's rarely a time when I felt like I just picked the wrong skills and was forced to just brute force a situation. And those where I did, I just didn't put the time in to really assess the situation. With enough investigation and cunning use of augmentations, you can find the password you need or find the comically oversized air vent that will get you the next few feet towards where you really need to be. They even fixed the boss fight issues of the previous game, and not just by ditching them completely. The final encounter especially, they're real tests of all the skills you've learned up to that point and push you to find a way to take down someone who has you massively outgunned. Deus Ex left a mark on me this year, and it's the type of mark that games don't often leave. It's what can only be described as a vibe, and I'm cringing internally saying that out loud. It has a design that permeates every part of it, and it appeals to me to a massive degree. People joke about their aesthetic, and I never quite got what they meant until Mankind Divided came along. You're going to see elements of this game in the design of a lot of things I'm going to be doing for the site going forward. And if that's not a reason for this game to top my list this year, I really don't know what will.